This is going to be another excellent news-based episode, as discussed and clearly defined in the comments. We are essentially the news at this point.
The only trusted source.
So I like the idea that today you put the, the responsibility in my stubby little hands to get the stories together for this episode.
I prepared nothing.
As the person who works full time in this house, I feel like it's definitely on me to be the one.
Absolutely. I've been flat out all week playing that shark game,
going on.
masturbating while playing the shark game, and being as drunk and high as possible the whole time. So how was I going to prepare an episode?
You know, I was actually thinking about how for this exact show, there's a very fine balance that it's got our recording night in, where you have to like get just drunk enough to want to talk to people through a camera, but not so drunk that you can't explain the news.
80% of my career has revolved around performances that ride that very fine line between loose enough to be fun and spontaneous, but not so loose that you're like, melting taffy and you slide between the crevices.
I was a big fan of the modafinils because I feel like until it started giving me like brain tumor feelings, I think it was like the perfect amount of like, oh, this is the type of person I'd like to be, instead of like a weird, anxious little fuckhead.
Have you tried modafinil?
We really recommend it, except for the brain tumoriness.
Yeah, well, in addition to being news folk, we're also doctors.
And are we
and as
biohackers,
that's it, biohackers. What the? Everyone's all, I don't want Bill Gates to put a chip in me. I say, riddle me with chips.
Yeah, I want
Fill me up.
Chips for like, I hate typing in my fucking credit card details.
I want a Wiimote in my elbow so I can just move around. And honestly, watching you handle the Wii last night, this couldn't be any more fucking awkward way to operate a virtual keyboard than the actual Wiimote was.
I think they shot high, and I feel like good for them for trying. Thanks, Nintendo.
It's classic.
The old underdog Nintendo.
Yeah, struggling little David versus Goliath Nintendo. It's that thing where we've got some exciting new technology and you're all going to have to use it in all your games. And
I don't want to alarm you, but I think it might have been like 10 minutes and we haven't even touched on it.
We're waffling already! Fuck! All right, take points.
Okay, so you tasked me with bringing you two news stories. No offense, everybody, they're not coronavirus related. Because it's the forever times, lockdown goes forever, and when you're in Victoria, it just basically feels like this is life now. So,
but if you'd like sort of an update on coronavirus in general, I feel we could squeeze that in. That's how many people have it in Australia right now. That's how many people have it in Victoria right now. That's how many people died yesterday.
This is how disinterested I am about this entire
That's
segment.
how disinterested Josie is about even talking about it. And that's how many weeks we're going to be in lockdown for. As you were.
How very dare you?
How very dare I? Yeah.
Okay, so, I feel like I want you to guess this one, because this is someone we've talked about before, and we very much like debated whether it was a good idea or not to talk about this person, but we decided it was okay because fuck this cunt.
Oh my god, is this about Michael Jackson being innocent? Is this because the truth needs to get out there? I'm sick and tired of people pulling that great man down.
I straight up will not go down that route.
I ain't touching that with a 20-foot pole.
You know, we are a certain household. No, this is about Chef Pete Evans.
Mate. Chef
mate.
Evans.
All right, I just
patron of the arts, yep.
To keep this tight, I want to keep this tight, but basically, I'm going to read you a couple of his posts recently, and I just, this is a jumping off point for why are all boomers so interested in QAnon? And I guess, that's where I'm,
Are you going to tell our viewers what QAnon is?
I don't know how you would fully describe it, but it's...
Is this like 10 years ago when we started dating and you tried to explain Anonymous to me? And I'm like...
No!
Where do they live?
The basic history of QAnon is some person was posting on forums, we think it comes from the Chans, and was posting
it's
news.
It's baseball questions.
No it doesn't.
It doesn't,
the
yeah, I know. Half our audience is on Facebook. They don't know any of that stuff.
Alright, look.
Chan, what?
I'm not
chin.
We'll link in the description a definition of the QAnons below. But look, the point is,
just link to 4chan in the comments below.
It's cocaine for boomers. It's like conspiratorial thinking. It's basically like a one world government, sort of like evil cabal, all the stuff we've already talked about. The important thing that I want to get at the root of here is Pete Evans, who's a paleo guy, a chef, a famous a celebrity chef.
Caveman.
He's
he's a celebrity chef.
He's a celebrity chef in Australia. He's got 1.5 million followers on Facebook.
He's no Peter Russell.
I will go to the specifics of what he's saying, but I guess here's what I'm thinking about this, right? every time I see this, and I have people who I like and genuinely respect who follow this guy on the internet and seem to see no problem with what he's saying. Do you ever have that experience where you're like, how come I can see that this guy is like saying the most insane stuff? Like, I feel like you're either a person who gets that he's so crazy and incorrect and dangerous and problematic and all that stuff, or you're like, he's all right.
Well, this is like what I was saying about my disconnect with people who are like, Trump, oh yeah, he's okay. And I just feel like, do you have a disability that prevents you from seeing this man as the insecure that he is?
We were talking about this the other day where I'm like, do you smell scents the same as me? Or do you see colours the same as me? There's like some, like, is it that thing where like psychopaths genuinely see the world in a different way?
Yeah,
like,
you look at Trump, you see someone authentic, you smell frangipani, and your brain goes, cunt.
And
like, is that kind of what happens?
Yeah, you're looking at Chef Pete Evans's posts on Facebook and you're like, yes.
Here's a guy who knows what he's talking about. Where can I order his gimmick machine?
Let me, maybe you're best. You're more of an actor. So this is the post I want. Like, this is the one that's got him in hot water today or yesterday. Maybe describe the article and then just read what he's written.
Chef Pete Evans, okay, so he shared...
This is his Facebook.
Yeah, this is Pete Evans' Facebook, okay, and he shared a story. I can't tell what media the story is shared from, but the headline says, "Third wave warning. Dan says intense pain now will avert disaster." And it's talking about Dan Andrews saying that, you know, if we suffer now, we can minimize infection. You know, pretty reasonable stuff. And Pete Evans says, "I can't tell whether he is just conjuring it up as he goes along or if he's following a written script. Let me ask this question, ... Ellipses work in threes, dumb cunt. ... Does any intelligent person that critically looks at all available real data come to the same truthful conclusion that this has nothing to do about health whatsoever? You could speculate that these measures are in place to ruin people's physical, emotional, and some would say spiritual, capitalized, well-being." Handy rainbow heart emoji. And remember that this man and the female in New Zealand, that sounds bad.
The femoid.
The femoid in New Zealand, both are linked to China with the Belt Road Project. Both are Hillary and Billy G supporters too. But just a coincidence, hey? Fucking Pete Evans, just once could you say what you think rather than phrasing it in this sort of dickless faux question?
I think so that's obviously off the wall, your uncle on Facebook crazy. And obviously the problem is though, he's not just your uncle sharing insane shit on Facebook.
He's a millionaire chef.
He's got millions of followers. And I think that's where I'm just like, who's reading that peppered amongst, like, in the rest of his thread, and I'll get to some of his other posts, in the rest of the feed that he's posting.
Is this whole episode of Pete Evans' hit piece?
No.
Because if he brings his eye of Sauron upon us, he'll crush us with his media power.
Honestly, come for me.
Do you reckon we could beat him in a fight?
I mean, he's probably very weak because he's a paleo.
Surely that paleo diet gives him the strength of Captain Caveman.
Who's Captain Caveman?
He's Hanna-Barbera. Captain Caveman, cut to bang! Captain Caveman!
This is another one of your, like, old people.
This is one of my deep cuts, Hanna-Barbera style. So yeah, that's Captain Caveman. Not a lot of parallels to Pete Evans, to be honest.
You got an evil Cheshire cat grin. Okay, look. Here's where I want to go with this. Again, it's not specific. It's not centered around Pete Evans, but I guess it's the idea that, like, when I read that, that's so obviously bonkers, batshit crazy that I'm like, I don't even need to I mean, obviously I'm giving it the light of day because I'm talking about it. And obviously there's the ethic of, like, whether you should give this guy any.
Yeah, I don't know if we're boosted his reach at all. But
the stuff that he's saying is so obviously mental and incorrect and bad and wrong and dangerous that it's just like a glaze of crazy. Like, you'd have to break down each sentence to be like, that incorrect, not a thing. The way that you're doing that is like, I understand, like, all the tactics that he's using in like a really, I guess, inconsiderate and like stupid way.
I think my biggest, like, broken down, none of these things are tremendously egregious to me. It's like, all right, so question the long-term consequences to our country of joining in the Belt and Road Initiative. Sure, it's a thing that bears consideration. Asking whether we should implicitly trust our government with everything they say. Sure, it's a reasonable question. My problem with this sort of stuff is the totally dickless way Pete Evans goes about it, where he doesn't say, I believe that Daniel Andrews is a secret communist, him and Jacinta are in cahoots together, and coronavirus is bullshit. That's what he thinks. But he's such a weak little bitch that instead he expresses it as, hey, don't you have questions about this? No, fuckface, you have questions.
I love that you're like, I don't want this to be a
and
hit
you try
about
not
Pete
to.
Evans, and then immediately you're just like, here, I'm coming for you. Let's.
But it's true. Say what you think, you gutless little bitch.
Sure.
Because that's what, and then people reshare it and they go, makes you think.
Okay, but yes.
Quiet!
But that's where I want to go with this, because I think it's not so much about Pete Evans, but I feel like he's one of the figureheads of this like sort of 40 to 50, 60 plus people who are on the internet, they're reading stuff, they don't have proper critical analysis skills apparently, or at least...
They sure like to talk about their critical skills.
Yeah, I know they do, and also like their argument structures and stuff, but like did something happen? Like I've recently been re-looking at like the way that we demark batches or generations of people, right? Like what happened to these people as a group that would make them so susceptible to this specifically? What appeals to them about this? Because for everybody else, it just seems fucking crazy.
I think there's a quality of internet newbie about this.
Oh my god, 100%.
It feels like when your aunt goes, I was on the internet, and did you know that there was a thing called Pizzagate?
Like, do you remember when your parents first started sharing like memes with you?
Yes.
And you're like, and they're not funny. They're just weirdly like, they're like cat pictures and
They're
stuff.
like sort of chastely transgressive. And it just feels like basic.
But the way they
internet.
share it to you might be like a text message.
Oh, and
They take it
email
off the
forward
internet.
where everyone's fucking email gets copied in, so they fucking dox
BCC,
everyone's email.
No BCC or CC. It's fucked.
Yeah, it honestly feels like early chain letters when they first migrated to the e-world.
Well, again, I think there's that obvious distinction between digital natives and people who are like digital immigrants, I believe, which sounds
You were
racist.
born into the digital world, whereas I merely adopted
Do you
it.
feel like you were adopted, or do you feel like I feel like you're on that very cusp.
Look, I was there when the internet
You was
was
there.
born. I was like
You
looking
lived
out.
through the Y2Ks as an adult?
I was there on my Commodore 64.
Right.
I was there for all of that, but I was never really at the bleeding edge or anything like that. Like, I owned a computer, never really understood how it worked. So yes, I was there for it, but as a bit of trivia, when Josie and I started dating 10 years ago, she's talking about all this young internet shit, and I hadn't even been online regularly for a couple of years.
I got raised on the chans.
Yeah, and so I spent...
Which is the worst sentence I've ever said in my life.
Raised on the chans.
Fucking hell. Ugh.
What's that? I kind of like a hotbed of misogyny, racism, and horror,
tentacle porn.
and dudes pulling their butt cheeks open. But I wasn't familiar with any of this, so I sat down one night and had like a crash course about 10 years ago in young people's internet.
Encyclopedia Dramatica.
Yeah,
That's how
and
old
I'm
this
like,
is.
oh, right, okay, fuck yeah, Sea King. Got it. All right, I'm up to date. All right, I know what the internet is now. Yeah. All your bases belong to us. Got it. And that was me catching up. But
You're like
now,
Lilo eating, watching like the whole of human history, and just like a single tear rolls down your cheek while you're eating chicken.
as an 80s boy, I would draw the I'm Johnny 5 from Short Circuit watching the internet and absorbing Three Stooges stick. And here's a Johnny 5 clip. Here. So that was me catching up on Encyclopedia Dramatica, and I suppose all these boomers are now catching up now. They think they're like opening up Easter eggs and discovering things like Indiana Jones, whereas really they're just drinking from the drip tray of the internet.
That's a horrible way to put it. So I guess just to summarize and close this off, a lot of this was taken from an article I read by Alex Nichols, Slender Man for Boomers, an offshoot of QAnon. Conspiracy theory has gone to an even darker place. And basically that sort of summarizes the idea that this is cocaine for boomers. Fuck you, Pete Evans. I think what you do is genuinely dangerous. I don't share your sentiments, and I think it's innocuous or anything. I think it's actually, he's not the root of the problem, but he is stoking the flames of an incredibly out of control fire.
And making a fortune from it the whole
100%,
time.
yeah, he's profiteering from people's, I don't know, ignorance, maybe?
Yeah.
I hope ignorance.
And honestly, I think if you get into bed with this man business-wise, you are engaging in cultural terrorism.
Yeah, so suck my dick.
Yeah.
Alright.
What else we got?
Wait, can you just pause while I'm just cut here? I just gotta get the article up.
I'll just flex while we wait.
Okay,
Yes.
right, so now I listen to a lot of murder podcasts, and a lot of the time they talk about not...
As a white girl.
Yeah, as a small coloured-haired, exactly who of course I am. I listen to a lot of murder podcasts. Anyway, they often talk about the idea of like not wanting to bring up stories that are like too horrible or problematic, or it's like an unpleasant thing to talk about. And like
They're trying to have a good time.
you were
talking
like,
about
bring
serial
me two
killers.
stories, and I'm like, bing, and obviously
here's your story,
Yeah,
Alex.
so Pete Evans, but also, here's a headline for you, Vanity Fair. Prince Andrew allegedly used a puppet of himself to grope victims at Jeffrey Epstein's home.
Did you see the Sweetie interview with him a few months ago?
Did I? I think the real question is, though, who is Prince Andrew?
Prince Andrew?
Explain that tree. See, I've watched The Crown, and so I understand to a point, but which one is he?
All right, so we're going to throw up like a royal family tree, and then it's going to go like ding around him, and then an arrow will appear. Cut to! Sure.
So now we know who he is.
So that's Prince Andrew, yep. So now you know how he fits into the picture. He's another royal parasite.
The picture of him from this Vanity Fair article by Emily Kirkpatrick where, you know, it's one of those ones where, like, she had a choice. She chose to use the ugly one of him, because fuck this guy.
Here's a guy looking like a beige toad.
Alright, so I'll just read the very top part, and then I feel like it's a jumping off point to talk about Muppets, essentially, or puppets. In the manuscript for Virginia Roberts Giuffre's unpublished book, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce that.
Guiffre.
Alright, look, you're laughing.
Put it up on screen. A Guiffre.
Virginia Roberts Giuffre.
In Virginia Robert Giuffre, unpublished book, the Billionaire Playboys Club, The Mirror, reports that Jeffrey Epstein accuser wrote about Prince Andrew allegedly using a puppet of himself to grope her and another victim. According to The Mirror's report, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell gifted Andrew his own caricature puppet from the satirical 80s British TV show, that's about you because you're 80s British, Spitting Image, and in April 2001. In April 2001.
Yeah, that's unusual because Spitting Image was, you know, kind of meant to lampoon these figures, and they were not very flattering
caricatures. That's what I was going to say. I didn't know what Spitting Image was.
Do you know what they look? The Spitting Image puppets are the ones that are in that Genesis Land of Confusion clip where Ronald Reagan's in the bed with his wife and stuff.
Let's put that here.
They're pretty hideous looking puppets. Let's have some Spitting Image here. Boom. They had the Australian equivalent back in the 80s and early 90s was called Rubbery Figures.
Oh, okay, so I'm getting the picture. It's not...
Yeah, so it was a riff on the puppetry and, of course, on the shoddy exploitation of stats that politicians use to cover up their
The idea that this guy's, I assume, using it to, like...
Like, the only thing in the world grosser than Prince Andrew is a puppet designed to highlight his ugliness.
Yeah.
And the fact that he got given it and then he used it to
grope...
some...
Like...
molest teenagers.
So I feel like that's the type of evil or, like, bad where you're like... I assume they think they're never going to get caught. Is that...
I think
like,
after a certain amount of entitlement and protection, I can imagine you just... eventually just kind of
just put a puppet on your hand that's a disgusting representation of you and start mapping at children.
Yeah, I guess.
Like,
I mean,
do you? I don't know.
I think what you probably
if you had
lose...
$1 billion, would you just start mapping at children with a disgusting puppet of yourself?
That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is after, you know, kind of, and for the royal family, centuries of protection, you probably just lose sense of the optics of this shit in the public eye.
What I want to get just at the heart of all of this, right? Like, he's like the son of the queen, is that right? Son of the Queen.
I think
Son
so.
of the Queen. Again,
Isn't
refer to the thing.
Is he like the younger brother of Charles? No, we'll check this. Bring the map back. Bing!
Okay, so he's that guy. And he, I assume, sexually assaulted or at least did the bad stuff with the children's on the Lolita Express, which is not a great name if you're trying to be
when in Rome. And it really does sound like ancient Rome the way they carried on.
And then he's so crazy, or like where are his handlers? Like, where are these people's handlers to be like, hey, don't be so fucking sweaty and nervous when you're acknowledging your rapes?
I don't understand how that interview even happened.
Who let him do that? Like that weird Donald Trump Axios one. Like, who let him do that?
That's right. You're not going to act like a complete fucking moron, are you? Oh, no.
Do you want to just bring out your pieces of paper?
I've got some printouts. He looked
like a bubble jet printer from like the 1990s. Like, what was that paper? Bring it back to Pete Evans. He's that guy. Pete Evans, yeah. Everything loops back to Pete Evans.
Oh, I'm just thinking of when we did that breakdown of the 60 Minutes episode.
Right.
And as soon as Pete comes on screen, smiling with his veneers, and I just crawled.
But that's that's what Prince Andrew, I guess to link it to the other article that I'm raising, like Prince Andrew doesn't, like, he looks like he probably did the bad thing.
Also,
just looks like it.
He was...
Which is how we judge people in a court of law.
He looks pretty guilty.
He looks guilty.
Well, certainly, unlike Pete Evans, who, of course, just to be very clear, is not accused of anything like remotely like what...
just lying to people about what might cure coronavirus, which is probably just
he was... You could tell the man was a professional entertainer. He was very smooth, very charming. The guy could talk. Whereas Prince Andrew looked like he'd never seen the light of day in his life. He's like a grey sack. He just looked like accountable for whatever. I was just born with a silver spoon 4 inches up my arsehole, and I've never had to deal with anything myself.
Yeah.
He was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that was yes, I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at. And I simply, it was almost impossible for me to sweat.
It kind of felt like they hung him out to dry.
But then why would they let that happen? Maybe fuck that guy. I think it's probably that thing where obviously they have to be like, oh, you have to, like, they have to let him die, right? They have to let him get accused of the thing. He shouldn't have done the thing.
Do you think that Ghislaine Maxwell's actually going to stand trial? And people in their coterie
that she's not
of
dead.
Evil abusers.
What about Trump being like her boyfriend? Her boyfriend died in jail.
I wish her well. Yeah. He's like Kamala Harris, nasty woman. Hillary Clinton, nasty woman. Ghislaine Maxwell, I wish her well.
Oh, boyfriend.
So, what the fuck?
You know her boyfriend died in jail. Like, what?
Yeah, we know.
It wasn't her
because you
boyfriend.
probably killed her.
I love that he's like, oh no, they said that he was her boyfriend and therefore definitely her boyfriend. Like, what? Maybe Pete Evans is right. It all goes to the top. You would have no idea how far it goes. It's all connected. It's like insert Charlie Kelly meme of just like Pete Evans, coronavirus machine, Prince Andrew, Donald Trump.
I understand the appeal of thinking that it all works together.
What's the appeal?
It's
the rich tapestry of life that does have meaning. There's no fucking it's corruption and it's people with power abusing power, and I think in some situations they're on the same page, but it still kind of feels like it's probably an every man for himself situation. I don't necessarily think they're all on the same page. They're not organising.
Maybe they are. Maybe that's what they want us to think.
They're releasing this stuff. They are QAnon. They are dropping these things on the internet for us to like fight over. Oh no, now it begins!
We're scrabbling over the scraps of truth they drop down upon us.
Those are the newses that I brought to the table. I hope you enjoyed them. Maybe next time I'll choose like puppy-based things or something, like cutest farm-based news. It's probably slightly nicer.
Look, the only animal-related news that struck a chord with me this week was that woman...
Shark.
No, that woman dying in the old people's home at the age of 95 covered in ants.
Oh, not the ants.
And I just would say that is so indicative of this government, that their voter base, largely the elderly who don't know any better and have been fooled into thinking that this government has their best interests at heart.
While they're laying there in a bed covered in ants.
Like someone lives for 95 years. This is someone who survived World War II and they died covered in ants.
Isn't that just the
all right? To the Liberal government, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful old system. So, in conclusion, all evil, powerful people are all on the same page, and they're like a secret little club.
In ants.
Yes.
Cover them all in ants. All of them.
Hail ants.
Hail ants.
Hail ants. Yeah. If there were any justice, the ant world would rise up and eat the flesh off Jeff Bezos and all those other people. But probably won't. In the meantime... Prince Andrew. That's it. You could just imagine in the interview, he just starts going... And then the mandibles come out like...
And he just scuttles off, yeah.
I'm going to insert at this point when all the meat falls off Jeff Goldblum in the thing. And just know that were the media ever to truly hold Scott Morrison accountable, his response would first be to say, well, no, I don't accept that. But if pressed, if a fuck I could press, actually pressed him, he would respond like this. So yeah, in conclusion, we're still fucked. We're fucked from the coronavirus, but on a grander scale, we're fucked because our evil rulers are determined to squeeze every drop of life out of us before they push us off the climate change cliff. So in the meantime, try to stretch your hamstrings on a regular basis.
And subscribe.
Like and subscribe, do some planks, wash your hands after you touch your genitals, rules for life really.
Don't get a puppet made of yourself and then group children.
That's our takeaway. Don't.